All right, we're ready to go, so.
This is the May 1st, 2025 meeting, Parks and Rec, at the Township of Newtown, Delaware County. Call to order. Roll call. Would you do the roll call?
Sure. Mr. Wade Pollock, we're unsure about. Mr. Lake,
Here.
Mr. Catronbone,
Here.
Ms. Foy, Ms. Vanicola,
Here.
and then your manager is here.
Let's take a moment of silence and then we will pledge allegiance to the flag. Stand and pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Let's consider approving the agenda. Do I have somebody to do that
Motion to approve.
in a second?
I'll second it.
The agenda has been approved.
Oh, we just have to vote.
Pardon?
We just have to take a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in favor.
Should we let's take a vote?
Yep.
Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't have any public comment for the agenda as no one is here. Let us consider approving the minutes from the April 3rd, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve April 3rd minutes.
And second,
Second.
Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Neese, do you have a public works update?
Yeah, so a couple quick things on the Public Works staff has continued to work in the parks and doing the normal spring kind of cleanup things, getting things out, putting mulch out, doing those kind of things, getting the playgrounds ready to be used more, just all those kind of things, clean up. Probably the biggest thing I can report is the turf field in the back has finally been completed. In fact, I think it was Tuesday of this week was the first day we had people on it, or Monday afternoon. Tuesday was probably the first game. Monday afternoon, we had some folks out there. We had some very, very little ones. And when I say little ones, I think they were like 2 or 3 running around out on the field. And then on the other side, we had probably some seniors who were playing catch. So it was kind of fun to have the little kids running bases on the far side where we've put in basically a regulation softball field, but the bases are much closer. So the little kids were just having a blast on that end. And then on the other end down here were the senior men who tend to use the field for games. I think they're all like 65 and older. So it was kind of fun to see the 2 very different age groups that were there. But that's kind of finishing up. There's a few minor things that they still have to come back and finish, I think, related to the teaching them how to maintain it and some things like that. There's some brushing that has to be done pretty regularly in the beginning to make sure that it stays under warranty and things like that. So they're going to come back and show us how to do that. I think like I said, I think Tuesday there was a game. I think there was another game last night, and I saw another game tonight. So very excited about it being used again and opened up, and we think that's really great. The Public Works staff, I think yesterday was up and painted one of the roofs of one of the dugouts. They're going to work on the other dugout, I think sometime soon. They've got tons of projects right now that they're working on throughout the different places in the township. So, and we've got multiple Public Works people that are out unable to do work right now because of some surgeries and things. So they're working through all that and they're doing really well with the team they've got. And so we're really excited and what they've got going on. There's some plantings that they're going to be doing on behalf of the municipal authority and things like that. So they're going to be tied up doing those for a couple of weeks. Well, that planting's only 1 week, but a couple other projects for a couple of weeks, but then they'll get back. And one of the things they want to do is pave the trail that's out there and take away the stone that's right up next to the edge of the turf field so that none of that stone gets onto the field. And so they're going to do that probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks and get that done. So we're pretty excited about getting that kind of controlled, and they'll have grass up to the edge, but then we won't have any stone that would get into the field, which was starting to happen with the old field, particularly in the back where the trail goes across the back out there. And if you haven't seen the field, I suggest you go do it. It's very different because we now have fencing and or netting all the way around it. And so it's good. I would make note for the public that we have asked, and we're not asking, we're saying you can't. We're not allowing spikes of any kind, rubber or metal, on the field because of the warranty. You can use what they call turf shoes. They have ribs on the bottom, or I would call them little spikes, but they're very narrow. They're not very deep. Or you can use like tennis shoes or things like that, but we don't want spikes out on the field because it will invalidate our warranty. And it's a big thing because the warranty, I think, is like a 10-year warranty on that field. So we want to take good care of that because it was not a cheap project, but we really did need to redo it. We were having some real problems. It was buckling in some places and not staying down like it should. So they fixed the stormwater underneath and then did that. So that was a really positive project. That's the big thing that I have. I know they're working, trying to get somebody around to do some of the tree plantings that have been done at some of the parks. There's a lot of invasives that are growing up in the same area as where the new trees were planted, or there's weeds that are kind of taking over. So they're getting out and trying to do some of that cleanup. They're looking for some volunteers who will help with that. EAC's been doing some, but there's a lot of that needs to be done. They did a lot of that over across the street at what I guess is considered the Greer Park, where that's across the street from the township building. And so they've made progress on that as well. So those are kind of things that they've been working on in our park system. Any questions?
Is there signage out there as far as no bike riding on the snoo field?
Yeah, so the board passed a new ordinance that really specifically got into the things that could not be on the field. There is no wheeled vehicles on the field. The only wheeled vehicle that's allowed on the field is the wheeled vehicle that does the maintenance. And so, we want to keep it that way because that vehicle will be on there. But other than that, we don't want that. The bikes tend to do damage to the field. Other vehicles, depending on how they're driven on the field, can do damage to the field. So we're gonna, there's a whole list of things that was listed, like we don't want people chewing gum on the field. We don't want people doing sunflower seeds. All of those things would tend to damage the field. And so all of that is prohibited, and there's signs at each gate that give that instruction so that people can see that before they go on. I will say just I think it was last night. I must not have been last night, must have been Tuesday night. I came back for a meeting and I saw 2 young men out there and they were getting ready to put on cleats to play out there. And I went over and said something to them and they immediately were like, okay, no problem. So it wasn't that they weren't giving me a hard time by any means, but it's like people are used to being on the field with cleats. And so it's going to be an education process. We've met Richie now brought in the teams that are tending to use the field, those leaders, and we've met with them, talked about the things that can and can't be on the field. And just we're very clear about that. And we're trying to make sure we get that information out. Additionally, we'll probably put something out on the news a couple times just to get it out on social media and things like that, that it's now open. We want people to come use it. It's a fine line when you're telling people they can't do things, but yet you're telling them you want them to come use it, right? And so, but we really do want people to use it, and it's a great field. It looks wonderful.
Very
Beautiful.
bright, very bright.
The signage looks good. It's very clear. I
Yeah.
think it's just behaviorally stopping a minute to read the sign because you're so used to going to the field, but like,
Yeah. I think people, and there will always be the people who push the edge. And it'll be part of our job is to make sure that, when we see people who are doing something that's not supposed to be doing, letting them know, educating them. And if they continue to do it, then we'll move towards finding. I hope we don't ever have to find anybody, but
Right.
that's what our goal would be. We want people to use it, that's really important.
Well, good. Thank you, Steve. Point 8, do we have any new business?
well, we didn't come up with a date for the newbie.
For the
Rock
rock
snake.
snake, yeah, we didn't.
Yeah, I spoke.
Any update with the
I
rock
spoke with,
supplier?
I spoke with Wade about that. And he said that he was involved in this cleaning out project. And he just hasn't had a time to.
I think that's okay. I think that now is a very busy time. It's for that school age group, because there's a lot of end of the year
Years, yeah.
field days and fun days and at schools. And baseball and softball are in full bloom right now. So I think that it's, Joe, you have kids these ages, right? It's a pretty busy time. I don't know, I think that this might be a hard time. Try to get the community to come out anyway. So I think that's okay to kind of push that
into
maybe
the
to the
fall.
summer, maybe the summer.
Yeah, this summer, yeah.
We could throw some more.
I think the
ice.
biggest key is,
And
I
the
guess
rock
who's doing the rocks. If the kids are painting the rocks at school, you can't wait till the summer to do that because they won't be there.
in the
It doesn't mean you couldn't do the event in the summer when you put them down, but it may not be if you're wanting to do that. If you don't get that done before the kids break for the summer, then you would almost have to move it to the fall.
Could the kids come to the event and paint the rocks there?
I think they could. I think what you couldn't do is if you're going to treat the rocks afterwards with a sealant, then you probably wouldn't be able to actually place the rocks at the event. Like you could have them paint them, but then you couldn't have them, you couldn't place them at the same time because I think there's a sealant that goes on them, and that has to be done prior to placing them, is what my understanding was.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that because it's quite a big project
It's very,
to prime the rocks, deliver them to the schools, have the art teacher sit down with all the kids, paint the rocks, then they're sealed by Parks and Rec, and then we do our placement at this event. It just feels like a lot of moving parts, and I wondered if we couldn't simplify it to say, whatever children or young adults, or not to discriminate age, whoever wants to come and paint a rock, could Parks and Rec then seal them there after they've been dried and painted? We'd have to make sure it's not raining that day. And then we could place them later and say, come back in a few days and look at these rocks. I just feel like it's a lot to deliver them to the school, and then could we sort of scale it back?
I think the question comes is like, how many rocks do you think you need to build the snake? And
many.
I mean, because I think Wade was thinking somewhere in the, like, almost near 100+ rocks. And I don't know that you would have 100+ kids show up to paint rocks at the event.
I think the nice thing of a rock snake is it's something that can be built upon over time.
Mm.
So even if we had 25 rocks done,
Mm.
We could have a beautiful snake community get together, and then maybe the next year we add another 25 rocks. But it just feels like a very big project, and I think I'd rather scale it down and get it done than not, because it's a little overwhelming.
Mhm.
These are just my thoughts.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about a lot of additional work with
We're
people
getting
in
a
school.
summer reading series very soon with the
Mhm.
library, and
Mhm.
also the fun day is gonna take a lot of planning. And we'll all, I know I'll need to do more to help Wade because he's helped me with that.
Question, could one of the library / summer days be
Paint
that?
rocks?
And maybe there's, and I'd say maybe, I know there's some stories about snakes, you know, that maybe you could have a reading of a story about a snake or something like a reptile of some sort, you know, like a chameleon that changes colors, and then have people let them do a painting, and then, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to think if you wanted to take that same issue and or same idea and not necessarily make it something new, like a separate event, but tie it to an event you're already having, even if it means just adding another day in what you've already got planned. I don't know. That's just a thought for you,
I like it.
just to think about.
What type of turnouts do those library days typically get?
I think they've had pretty good turnouts, like, I want to say 30, 40 kids. like,
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean,
I think one of them had 50 kids to the
Yeah.
point where they were kind of like, all right, we're full.
yeah, like, I mean, like, I think it could be, I mean, like,
Did Public Works end up doing 2 shifts?
Public Works
because there
did
were
2
so
shifts
many.
because there were so many kids.
Yeah, right. And the firehouse was.
I think the
Firehouse, yeah.
firehouse was the same way.
Yes.
And I think if you'd kind of start out with a couple of those, kids get excited about going. And so, you know, you could, if you figured out another couple games to do with the kids while they're there and do that rock painting be a part of that, I think it could be a fun event. And, you know, it would be a way to do that and keep it kind of directed as part of the program over the summer. And I don't know, I'm not trying to add to somebody's workload, but I was thinking might be a way without making it more difficult, making it just part of something you're already doing. You're already advertising. You just add this as one more stop along the way.
I think that's good. I think that will be a nice way to scale it down. And complete it.
We have to get the rocks painted with the latex.
With a primer.
Yeah, primer, and Wade suggested, Harry suggested, first dipping them, but you don't want to paint the bottoms. Because it won't adhere to the concrete.
Right.
So I suggested, well, get a professional paint machine. I'm sure the township has one of those.
A sprayer.
Yeah, sprayer, just to spray, so just to spray the top of it, but not the bottom.
I don't know if we have a true paints. I know we have a paint sprayer that we use to paint the road,
The lines.
the lines on the roads. I'm not sure you can use that same.
You know, that would be a little.
I can paint.
But I mean, I have a paint sprayer, so I mean, like, we could, like, if that's what we need to do,
Right.
I think that's not a hard thing.
Good.
Although I will tell you, it takes more time to clean it than it does to paint.
Oh, I know.
And those paint sprayers are great, but they take more time to clean than it does to do the job you're doing.
I can help you in Wade to paint.
Okay,
And if we are scaling down to like 50 rocks instead of
Yeah,
100
that's
plus,
not a big
then
job.
it won't be a big job.
just
if
need
we
a
just
tarp and the rocks.
paint them with the
Yeah.
paintbrush.
Paint too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do it by hand.
I think it just might be simpler.
Easier, yeah.
If it was 100 plus rocks, I would take you up, thank you, on the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do it.
Sprayer, but I think that,
And rocks.
I think, yeah. I think we can handle it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did Wade say when they would have the rocks ready? Is it a matter of us going to pick them up, or?
We didn't have anything more to say than him saying he's overwhelmed.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
So-
and that's
So when we talk to him next, maybe he
I
has.
actually reached out to them and,
They have the
yeah,
rocks.
Yeah,
Oh, we do in the township.
The rock
place.
supplier has the rocks. I don't believe they've been delivered
Oh, I got you.
to Wade or any other township location. Okay, that sounds good.
Any other new business?
I think just that the summer reading series is continuing to be detailed for times and dates with the library.
Right.
And that we did nail down October for the Family Fun Day. But I don't think we have a date, but we can check in with Wade on that.
Any old business, number 9? And as no one's here, there's no public comment. So this meeting is adjourned.
God.